What's up, all you huntsmen and huntswomen out there? I'm Duuz-Diz-Din, and I'm coming at you with Rwby, Volume 8, Episode 7, titled War. And believe me when I tell you this is war. As we see the forces of Atlas readying themselves as the onslaught of Grim come pouring out of, I think it's called Monstro? Whatever the giant whale Grim is called. It's literally just vomiting out Grim. And just look at that scene where you see the whale just opening its mouth. Grim are pouring out all over the Atlas faction. And they're just coming in. It is just going to be devastation. And honestly, if it was just a few Grim here and there, Atlas forces might have had it handled. But the whale just keeps spitting out more. Salem brought all the grim creating material that she could muster with her. She is going all in on this. And Ironwood, his immediate reaction is to evacuate, get the civilians out of there, protect who they can. Because those Grim, they're flooding into the city where they can. And these people, with all the Atlas forces trying to hold at the wall, yeah, there's nothing really left in the city. All the people can do is run. And we have, Winter and the Ace Ops having captured Jean, Ren, and Yang, which originally caught me off guard because I'm just like, how did they catch him? But at the same time, the kids probably just went with them because it was the only way to actually get up to Atlas and hopefully have a chance of getting to Oscar. However, they see the scene and it's just like, oh, this is not good, which is an understatement. So Winter contacts Ironwood to find out what the situation is, what he wants them to do. But Yang is trying her best to convince them to let them go, to get into the monster, to get to Oscar, to find him. But Vine, being the pragmatic person that he is, it's just like, yeah, the Grim don't normally take prisoners. And we very much doubt that if Oscar was taken, that he's still even remotely alive. And things get from bad to worse, as is it turns out Ironwood is going to have Winter and the Ace operatives plant a bomb into the Grim Whale in order to just destroy it, to keep it from spewing out any more Grim. So, Oscar's living on borrowed time as we see Salem with her full focus being on sending out these Grim to infiltrate the city, to just wreak havoc and get to the relic that she's after. As we then cut to Emerald, who spies on Salem, makes sure that she's distracted, and then she heads over to where Hazel is interrogating Ozpin in order to get information on the lamp, Jin's lamp, to find out what the password is in order to get in there. But Ozpin is not letting it up, and even continues to try to question Hazel about why he's joined Salem, what he thinks that she could possibly do for him. But Hazel says that ultimately Salem is all about taking down establishments, destroying the unnatural order of the worlds, where a child would be in a situation where she would die in a training mission against monsters. But Ozpin doesn't believe in any of that. To side with Salem is to side with complete and utter destruction. But Hazel says that he tried to kill Salem. He had the chance. He was there. He killed her over and over and over again, which took me off guard because I didn't think he got that close in. But no, he tried to take her down. He had the opportunity, but every time he took her down, it took maybe an hour tops for her to come back, or was it just a few minutes? I don't remember, but you know, regardless, she just kept coming back. And ultimately, while she would just come back, ultimately his arms just got tired from killing her. It was as simple as that. He literally had no strength left to keep killing her. And ultimately, it was just like, what can you do about that? What could we any of us do about this? You know, even if she is just after absolute destruction, what do we have to stand against something like this? We then cut over to the Schnee mansion where we see Weiss tending to Nora, who's still just completely out of it. It's obvious she's still kind of just, going through her own personal battle in her mind over what good is she, what use is she. She's trying to find her own sense of purpose, and I feel so bad for Nora. She didn't deserve to go through a lot of the emotional turmoil that she has been going through. But, Rwby, Weiss, and Blake all kind of meet up and just talk about everything that's going on, that Nora needs medical attention from a professional, not just bandages, but actual medical attention. But they're also questioning the situation outside, where all the Grimm are just flooding in, and what they're going to do about it, how they can help, where they should go, what they should be doing next. And we even get a very interesting conversation as May Marigold comes in and really just demands to know what their next course of action is. Are they going to help out Atlas? But she's trying to get them to head back to Mantle, saying that that's where the real fight is. That's where the real need is. Atlas can defend for itself. And Weiss kind of takes issue with that she would turn her back on where she comes from because we've met, another Marigold before, namely May's cousin, and who ultimately May says is, Henry. But May says ultimately that's the successor the Marigold family needs. Wants, even. That ultimately, Henry is what they're after. When May chose to be, I mean, this took me off guard, to be a woman, essentially, because May is in fact transgender, trans to female, and this took me off guard, and then I looked up who May's voice actor was, and I'm gonna butcher this name, Kitty Jensen, who I remember from a while back, and it was just like, oh, who's also a transgender woman, and I'm just like, nice little bit of representation there. It could have just been this offhanded thing. You have this trans woman playing a female character, but to actually incorporate that into the character and to use it as a bit of a sore spot for May, where it's just like, my family didn't accept me for who I was, and I'm kind of just spitballing some of this, but it feels that ultimately Henry was the son the Marigold wanted. The successor, the son, the person to run their enterprise, and Henry's a dick. Henry's a douchebag, let's be real. We met him back in volume 5 or 5, I think it was 5 or 4, during this party or this benefit for the whole situation in Atlas, and he really rubbed Winter the wrong way. So she knows all about this. That's why she knows about the Marigold family. And ultimately, that she wasn't what they wanted. Not the son they wanted. They didn't want her as a daughter. They didn't want her to go out and try to protect Mantle and do the right thing. For all she cares, the Marigold family is on their own. Atlas is on their own. And yay, more power to you to feel that way. You can't fight emotions. But ultimately, the decision she tries to push the issue of whose side are you on, Atlas or Mantle. But Rwby is trying to get it through all these people's heads that there shouldn't be sides. There shouldn't be an either or. That they are all people, and there are people who need protecting, need to be rescued, to need to be helped. That there shouldn't be all this personal gripe going on. Yes, Mantle needs help, but at the same time, there are people here who need help as well. All the attack is going on here in Atlas. That's where the most dire amount of chaos is going on. That's where the most amount of people are going to need help right now. Mantle is not the target. Atlas here, and innocent people are going to be caught in the crossfire of all of this. But during this discussion, we see that Whitley overhears it all. But we then cut back to Hazel and Ozpin, where Ozpin, spilled the beans on pretty much everything, the entire backstory of, Salem, of Ozpin, Ozma, whatever, all of that whole situation. And that ultimately Salem's whole goal here is to gather all the relics, summon back the gods. They see that ultimately humanity is still divided and very much wanting, and they'll just wipe humanity from the face of the earth along with Salem. That ultimately her centuries long existence will finally come to an end. And Hazel don't believe a word of it. He feels that Ozpin is nothing more than a liar, and he'll say anything he wants in order to get his way. So ultimately, Oscar decides to take over, and, feeling that he has a plan, and he gives up all the information that Hazel was after. That all he needs to do in order to summon the genie from the lamp is to just say Jin's name, and there she'll be. There's one wish left. Use it wisely. And when Hazel's just like, after all this, you would just give up the information? Why? Why give it up to her? And Oscar, very shrewdly, is just like, I'm not giving it to her. I'm giving it to you. You decide what to do with this knowledge. And I love that because it plays into any form of doubt that Hazel could have. To put that information in the hands of Hazel and say, there you go. What you gonna do with it, big boss? You hold all the cards now. You could give Salem all the power right then and there. And it's just like Hazel is dumbfounded. He's just struck by this notion of what to do. And I love it. I love this moment because it really just goes to show how much doubt Hazel had just lingering beneath the surface, and it's all just bubbling up in this instance. And speaking of which, Emerald overheard all of this and goes to tell it to Mercury. And Mercury's just like, yeah, well, Oscar, Ozpin, whoever could just be lying. He's a prisoner. He would be saying anything. And that's the thing about torture. Someone could say anything, and you can't rely on information you get through torture. But he also says that it's none of our business. We serve Salem, and that's all we need to do. I'm heading to Vacuo. You're staying here. Do what you're told. Whatever. Stay out of it. It's not our battle to fight. And I doubt Salem's actually going to be destroying the world. No, she's going to be changing the world. And then, as if on cue, in comes Tyrion to say, of course she's destroying the world. You'd be crazy to think otherwise. What did you think this was? Like, all of this going on? Of course it's all for destruction. Wipe the slate clean. Tabula rasa. Like, dude, you guys were fooling yourself if you didn't realize this is what was going on. And he's basically here to just collect Mercury because they're heading off to Vacuo. And as he leaves, he gives Emerald this look, which I don't know if it's him saying, "Hey, do what you need to do," or just sit tight, or just a goodbye. But you see that doubt also planted within Mercury, because it's obvious he didn't realize how deep this was gonna go. And Emerald just watches him leave, and it's so obvious Emerald is ultimately going to betray them at some point, but will she survive that betrayal is anyone's guess. We then cut over to the situation with Winter, where Jean and Yang are trying to convince her, don't detonate, don't do anything, or at very least just drop us off so we can infiltrate and go save Oscar. And they try to tell the Aesops, wouldn't you do that for each other? And Elm is just very solemn. It's just like, no, why would you waste someone's life against three lives and all that? And Ren, bless this kid, finally finding his resolve once more. It's just like, because he's our friend. You do that for your friend. You don't just leave them behind. You search for them. You look for them. You're there for them because you care about them. And, Harriet, still trying to play into this cold persona, it's just like, no, we would never do anything like that. And we get a revelation that ultimately, Marrow, he wasn't originally on the team. There was a person named Tortuga, which is Turtle. And it's just like, oh, the turtle and the hare. Of course, that's what happened to the turtle. He died. He was probably too slow. And ultimately he died, he's gone, and Mara replaced him. Just like Winter replaced Clover on the Ace Operatives as their leader. That ultimately, as a soldier, you move on and you keep pressing forward. And Ren's just like, no, people can't be replaced that easily. But then he realizes something. He sees Harriet's aura, or something about it, the emotions within. And to a certain degree, this makes sense. His ability seems to infuse, his aura into other people. But, it seems as though his aura his abilities are able to detect what's going on in other people. And this makes sense because he would have to be able to sense other people externally in order to be able to mask them. And that's what we saw with him being able to mask large crowds of people. He would have to be able to detect those people in order to mask them. And through that detection, he's also able to find their emotions. And he realizes, Harriet, you don't believe a word of what you're saying. You're still pissed off about the situation with Clover. You're furious about it. And you're just distraught over it for the most part. We then get a glimpse of Marrow's emotion, where he's very solemn. He's melancholy. It's represented with the falling of these petals around him. Whereas Harriet's, her petals were rising. You could see that she was in emotional turmoil. But with Marrow, it's slow descent of his aura, these petals, where it's like he's in a bit of he's feeling very down about this situation. He doesn't believe in any of this. He's melancholy about the situation. Elm, there's a quiet storm brewing here. She's still upset over everything. She's still impassioned over everything, which makes sense over her character. And Vine, tranquil as always. This dude, essentially a Buddhist monk. He doesn't get caught up in his emotions, and he realizes, Ren realizes, this is why you lost to Team Rwby. You're conflicted about your emotions. You don't know how to feel about each other. You don't know how passionate you should be about each other. You don't know how much you should care about each other. You ultimately just don't have that level of trust that helps you go the extra mile for your teammate. That's the conflict within you guys. That's what ends up causing you guys to lose ultimately. And Elm, almost just decks Ren right in the schnoz for all of this because, again, she has this quiet storm brewing beneath the surface. But Winter breaks it up and says, "Go ahead. I just says we'll do it. We'll just drop you off." And Harriet's just like, "Dude, what the fuck?" And without missing a beat, Winter's like, "I outrank you." She just is a slap to the face, but ultimately it's just like, "Hey, Harriet, if you ultimately are all about following orders, your commanding officer is giving out an order. You follow it. There you go." And she tells him, "Hey, you guys are on your own. We'll set you down. You can go, but we're detonating that bomb. That's it, whether you get out or not." And John's just like, "We understand." So they release them and let them go. But Ren confronts Marrow over his emotions, that he doesn't believe in any of what they're doing, that he's not even for it whatsoever. But Marrow's just ultimately is bound by his duty, by just his service to his, country, I guess you could say. And he just continues to roll with it. But Ren also confronts Winter over her emotions, and we see she's going through all of it, a torrent of various different emotions. There's a calmness about it that she's trying to maintain, but she's shaky on her feelings. She's enraged about everything that's happened. She's uneasy about it. It's a swirl of emotions. But, that's saved for later. As we cut back over to the Schnee Manor, where we see that Rwby is trying to go through a list of options, including trying to save Crow and Robin and break them out. But May's just like, "Dude, we don't have time for any of that. We need decisive action. You could either help save Mantle or help save Atlas, but you need to choose. There are no other options here. There's no miracle save here." But then a knock comes at the door, and who should it be? None other than the Schnee butler. I swear to God, I can never remember this guy's name. But in fact, he was actually called here despite being fired because of, Jacques Schnee and all that. He was actually summoned by Whitley, and that's because Whitley's a good doctor, and he was called over to treat Nora. With Whitley saying that he didn't do it for Weiss, he did it because someone was in need. And Weiss is just overjoyed by that. He didn't do it for any personal reasons, he did it because deep down he has a conscience. And I like seeing that. It's just nice to see this turn in this character. But that's not the end of things, as there's a rumbling outside the door and a massive crater right in front of the Schnee Manor. And who should it be? None other than Penny, beaten, broken, and bruised. Who would have guessed she would come down here? But ultimately, she probably was trying to just make her way back to someone who could help her. And that someone was unfortunately Rwby, as it's the only person she could turn to at this point. And that ends the episode. Dude, I had a lot to say here, but there was just so much to go over. Like, the giant whale thing, Monstra, this just spewing out Grim. Atlas is gonna fall. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Atlas will fall. It's just a matter of how it's going to happen. But the situation going on in Schnee Manor, where is that? Where is that going to end up being attacked? How did Penny get there? Has she completely been overridden? Is she ultimately going to be found fighting Ace Ops? But they're on a different mission, so I guess they're not going after Penny anymore, as who they have no idea of even knowing where she ended up being sent to. So I don't know if that's a writing inconsistency or what. But, there's so much going on. It's just like Ironwood's just like trying to refocus things as best he can. He has no time to waste manpower on searching for a robot in a tundra that he has no idea is actually still on Atlas. But who knows if Penny's going to be any help in this situation. It was nice to see Whitley's turn, but at the same time, there are more pressing matters going on, namely the giant whale grim outside the walls. And, people are going to die. Atlas is going to fall. I'll be surprised if it doesn't, if they don't end up taking the relic in some way, shape, or form. And we always get a fight in the relic room to some degree, so who knows how that is going to go down. And seeing the Atlas forces, just like, y'all could have spared some people in order to protect Mantle. Y'all totally could have done that. It's great that you didn't divide up your forces because you needed it for this, but your forces are only going to hold for so long. As long as that whale is spewing out Grim, these forces aren't going to last too long. But just what an intimidating situation, and with our heroes trying to infiltrate this thing, who knows what's going to happen to Yang, to Ren, to Jean? Are they going to be able to rescue Oscar? I have to assume so, but oof, this whole situation going on, and who's going to end up betraying Salem? I feel that it'll ultimately be Hazel as well as Emerald, but I feel that it's just like that's going to net them a one-way ticket to oblivion. With all the doubt that Emerald has been having, I think it'll be Salem who takes her down. To prove her loyalty. No, it'll be Cinder who takes down Emerald to prove her loyalty to Salem. The ultimate betrayal. But, will Emerald end up helping out our heroes as we go forward? There's so many questions. There's so many ways this could go. And that's the thing about this series. There is no formula to any of this. Anything could happen at any point. We've seen it. Anyone could die at any point. But I don't feel that most of our main cast is in too much danger. But I do feel that a lot of the villains have a lot of death flags around them at the moment. You know, Villains have been dropping off left and right, and it seems like it's only a matter of time. But can Penny be repaired? Is she ultimately going to be a casualty as well? And will the Winter Maiden's power be passed on? Only time will tell. But tell me your thoughts and theories in the comment section below. What do you think about any of the theories that I've thrown out there? And do you have any theories of your own? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, as long as it's been, leave me a like. If you didn't, feel free to leave me a dislike. Subscribe and hit the bell icon. That way you never miss out on another Rwby episode review. And until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.